Hey guys, what's going on? Adam here with Coverbandconfidential. So last week we did something really, really cool. We got an opportunity to hop on a Zoom call with one of our patrons and do a full band coaching session. Now, coaching is something that we have offered before, but with the rebooting of our Patreon, we have started opening those up again. So if you're in a brand new project or you've been in a band that's been out there for a while but needs some help kind of getting to the next level, this is a great way to do that. If that's something that you're interested in, check out our Patreon, or you can email us, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com, to set something like this up. Just to note, this is the full conversation that we had, so it is really, really long, but I wanted to show you guys what this kind of thing looks like, and to show you the level and depth of the kind of things that we talk about. For a little bit of context, our patron's name is Creston, and his band's name is Alt95. They're a 90s band that's just getting started in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and they kind of just wanted a second set of eyes to look over what they've already got set up and things that they could potentially improve on as they get ready to come to market. Whether you're in a cover band or an original group, I think this information is super valuable, and I hope that you enjoy it. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So why don't you guys start by giving us kind of a general introduction of the group. Creston, if you want to take the lead on that, by all means.
Yeah. We picked the name Alt95 as far as this band goes. It's a little interesting. Brad is not only our drummer, but my father-in-law. He's a young father-in-law. We won't say his age, but he and I, aside from playing in church practically every weekend, except right now, cause I'm on a break, have played in numerous bands together since like 2016. And, all the time we've really wanted to do a band kind of our way, right? In a professional manner, in a way that, where it's not just a bunch of dudes throwing it together that end up half in the bag halfway through their gig and, that kind of nonsense where I think we've probably all been, right? Chris. And,
yep.
I've been playing out, 20 plus years. My background is, I went to school in Nashville for audio engineering. I ran a few I built a studio there. I built a studio in Sydney, Australia. I worked in a staff engineer at different places and got sick of it, came home, so Brad and I, he was playing with another band in town where he kind of got sick of the shenanigans, your typical cover band nonsense shenanigans, egos that are not needed, that kind of thing. He can tell you about that. And so we finally were in a position where like, let's do this thing. Let's find some people. Let's do it. Chris, we met in a Craigslist ad of all places. I didn't have a lot of high hopes for the old Craigslist ad. But Chris thought that, I don't remember how you put it, man, but you were like, you didn't seem crazy by your your Craigslist ad.
I've been looking at Craigslist every day for the past 15 years. I've gotten really good at reading between the lines and knowing who's batshit. Sorry to curse, but
You're fine.
It's fine.
and who's normal, and I could just tell immediately that Creston, whoever this is, that they're normal and they know what they're doing. So that's better than 99% of the ads out there. So I'm at least gonna email them, and here we are.
I'll tell you, I found some great people off Craigslist. I found some great band members off Craigslist. It can be done.
Did you find your current bass player that you keep bragging about? Was that a Craigslist find?
No, she was a referral from another bass player who didn't have time, but had just graduated from the jazz program with her. But my current bassist is off of Craigslist. Sorry, drummer. Pardon me. Current drummer's off.
Drummer. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Isaac, we found of all places on Bandmix. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at Bandmix.
Oh yeah.
Like I've had a profile on there and never had a lick of success. And I was like, all right, we're trying to find a singer. I'm going to pay some money for a month, see what we can do. And Isaac responded, and I was immediately like, I think the first time we started texting, I noticed his number was a 615 area code. And I was like, dude, are you a Nashville cat? And I was like, shit, man. All right. So like, that was cool. And we just started hitting it. Like, Chris, Brad, and I started jamming end of last year. Isaac came in a few months ago. He also plays guitar and piano. So that was a huge bonus. And yeah, man, we've just been plugging away, and trying to just get everything. I think one of the things in like that document I sent to you that I typed up that, one of the things I felt like we were really doing right with this is trying to get everything in line ahead of time. Get the branding, the social media, we're doing tracks, we got everybody on ears, we're all on bottlers, we're like really just trying to get everything set so that when the first gig comes, we can, and it's just troubleshooting from there.
It's good.
So that's kind of our, I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that.
That's on the money, dude.
Very good.
You said it very well.
Yeah, and every week we got like a quick little bio of everybody in the group, and so now have you guys actually played out yet officially? Is this is still kind of an up and coming project? It has not been realized live yet.
No, first gig is June 25th.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't wait to. We played with a lot of great players, and to bring these guys together to do this, and I can't wait to hit the stage with these guys.
Very cool.
So yeah, 625. It's our first gig.
I think I know it's true for me, and I think I heard Creston say it, but this is possibly the longest build-up I've ever had to a band because, like he said, we started playing together like maybe October, November of last year, and I've never taken this long to get a band going, but I've never been in a band this professional, so I've been going along for the ride. But yeah, it's been a long time coming, so I think we're all very excited to play.
Cool.
I'll tell you, I fully get that. My current project, we just did our second gig last weekend after being in the practice room for, we were trying to do a pickup throw together for a New Year's Eve gig that didn't happen. So that's about the timing of that. That was when we all started. So
That's
I'm with you.
Everyone got COVID one, right?
Everyone got COVID. Yeah, we canceled it all because we all had COVID. Yeah, miracle. But we weren't ready also. So that was worked out for the best. But it's been the same kind of thing, solid 5.5 months of working it out, getting ready to hit the stage. Yeah. So I definitely feel that, and I appreciate your preparation on that. It's really good.
So as far as it's very apparent that you guys are being super thorough and thoughtful about the way that you are prepping and approaching this first gig. But specifically, what are the things that you think that we could potentially assist you with? What are the question marks in this whole operation that you think, you don't quite have your hands around?
So I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
I was gonna say, so one thing that I have, so we like Creston mentioned, we use tracks, we use Ableton, and we run tracks for our services at church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I learned how to use the tracks in Ableton and stuff like that. The longest service we've done was about 97 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Set. Every song had tracks, and in some cases, pretty, you're talking about maybe 10, 15 tracks for each song.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran that. So one of the questions that I actually had written down for you was, do you use session view or do you use arrangement view in Ableton, and why?
Mm-hmm.
I like the linear approach to running the tracks. So I have done it a couple times with cover bands. So I'm going to do it again on Friday night, and those guys, they have an MP3, they split left channel, right channel.
Yep.
I still throw it into Ableton because then I can throw some markers in there for myself, and then just run it out to my Focusrite, or go out to just a 2-channel Focusrite, and then I go into a dual DI because I like the through, so I can run the click to my little mixer, and I have more control over that. But I was just curious, kind of how you do the tracks for this, kind of where, because I know you guys, I think you're running 7 or 8 channels out, right? So you split click, cues.
Yep.
Yeah. So, session view versus arrangement view. When you run the tracks, do you throw everything out? Because I know you you download all the stems, right? So you download all the track, and then you just turn on or off whatever you need. So do you load all that stuff right into your set list? Kind of like, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So, all right, we can circle back to that because I'm gonna have to open it up and really like dig in because I didn't do the initial arrangement. I'm just kind of facilitating. But yeah, so we'll talk about Ableton real quick at some point, and then we can talk about some of the other stuff while I'm looking that up. And Dan, if you would be a lamb and just cut this.
Yeah, no worries.
I think one other question that I had, and we can come back to this too, is so I was a DJ for a long time. One thing that was always frustrating to me was I kind of go in, the songs that get people dancing, right? The songs that are going to get people on the dance floor, and the songs that are going to clear the dance floor, right? So when you need a break, you play that one song that everyone's going to leave, you get a second, and you kind of get everybody back out. So I've never been the guy in a band who puts together a set list, and so it's usually somebody else. Maybe you throw some input in there, like that song doesn't work there, whatever. So the other night we tried to do this as a band and kind of do a group. Let's plan out our set list, and it was interesting and it was fun. To kind of go through that process for our first show because it's a summer festival in the backyard of a Catholic church. So we're like, well, we certainly can't do the Santeria song because we're not going to be smacking hose and shooting people in the mouth, like that kind of stuff, right? But going
Get too bad in the box.
yeah, right. So going forward, like guys at your level, like how do you guys plan out your set list? Do you have a rotation of set lists? You add new songs and go, okay, we know that this particular venue, they like this kind of how do you guys plan out your set lists?
Right on. So Ableton song selection, and then Dan and I, did some review of your socials and the website and the song list and stuff. So I think we've got plenty of good topics to dig into.
Yeah, I want to dig in on the branding too some.
For sure. So where do you want to start, Dan?
Well, let's just answer that question, song selection.
Yeah. I'll let you take lead. I know this is like your...
It is, and I have a whole philosophy of set list building that you probably heard me, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, you've probably heard me talk about, that is about managing the storytelling of a podcast, of a set list. Because it's got to follow a certain flow, and as a DJ, you're very dialed into that. It's got to have a certain energy. There's got to be, but you can't hold that energy for too long because you'll wear everybody out. You won't get them back. It's got to be about shaping all that stuff. And I will say I can give you a cautionary tale, which is if you get a set list that works, the temptation is to just play it at every show. And what happens then is you get sick of it and bored with it, and your bandmates start to be annoyed that they're playing the same songs over and over again. The energy starts to fall off, and you don't even realize it because you're so in a groove about it, you don't even know that that's happening. So I have committed with this current band that I'm creating that we will always be rotating, evolving, shifting, trading songs in and out. But that means you need to sort of understand where every song falls on the energy, popularity, danciness sort of matrix. There's a lot of variables about where each song is going to fall. And if you take one out, you want to bring one in that's equivalent, so that you can keep the shape of the set list all sort of in one way. You'd certainly want to pay attention to the audience. I think it's really important. There are songs in my show I would not do in a Catholic church parking lot, 100%. Right. So you do have to consider that every time. And then part of the fun of it for me is, so all right, we don't rehearse on the weekends that we gig, but on the weekends that we don't, we get together and some things are still, we're tight on a bunch of stuff. So we don't need to work on that. So we got this freedom to say like, hey, what about this tune? Like, oh man, this is on the radio on the way in. It killed me. Let's do that one. And, you can get back into that space of creating again once you've sort of built the show and there's a stable place to evolve from. I think your thinking is right on about needing to fine tune it. But I would also say it works to have some, moves that are fairly static. We have some two now dance medleys that are kind of through composed. They have transitions that don't stop, and the rhythm keeps going. The tempo's all the same. Keys are all the same in some cases, and those move around as a chunk. We'll place them at the high energy point of the set. So
there's something to be said about like basically creating like blocks of songs.
Yeah.
Where, like they may not necessarily be in the same part of your set every single time, but it is a lot easier to navigate when you know that you've got, I don't know, 2 to 5 songs that are always going to kind of be together based on whatever parameter
I'll tell
you
you,
set.
in practice, I've only ever done that with
Brett.
Go ahead.
Yep.
I was gonna say that's one thing that Brad was doing. Was that last night that we met? Yeah. Jeez.
Last night.
Yeah, last night. That was one thing that Brad was doing, was like, okay, so we can do these 3 songs, and like let's put these 2 songs that are in drop D together, and then like let's put like the poppy, like Brad's come up with a medley for I'll Be There For You, right? The Friends theme by the Rembrandts with Closer to Free by the Bodines, right? And Isaac has come up with some great ideas for medleys. And that was something that we were kind of like maybe unconsciously conscious of when we were talking about it.
For sure.
It really is pretty amazing how those medleys just really work. When you put the right one together. The previous cover band I was in, Singer and I put together a medley that had Pony in it and Harder to Breathe from by Maroon 5. And
Yeah.
It just
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
Like there were several times we were playing, like we played this biker bar out by the, we're in Cleveland, right? So along the lake, the islands are a big deal over, kind of west of us, and we were playing a biker bar out there. They're like, there's no way we can play this. I'm like, you watch. I mean, and it went over so well. Even the hardcore bikers turned around and gave us a smile, like,
They know more than head out on the highway.
Right.
There's a classic.
More than Smoke on the Water.
They know more than smoke. Yeah. There's some that all right, you kind of have to do. Born to Be Wild. Sorry, that's the one I was looking for. Names are failing me tonight. I don't know what that's about. There's something you got to do for the bikers, but they're broader than you think. Most of them, a surprising number of them are lawyers during the day. So
yeah, I mean, most of we're talking about blues lawyers, like the guys who who are playing out on the weekends, like we are.
Yeah,
but like the
I can afford the Gibsons, I can't.
Exactly.
That's right.
So medleys serve kind of 2 purposes. It kind of shows your personality, your creativity, but it also allows you to take songs that may not necessarily like live for an entire song length, because a lot of them, you're not going to be like, nobody cares about the bridge in Harder to Breathe. They just want to hear like, the parts that they remember, so you can kind of cram those together and get cover more ground.
Here's a good example. In my sort of modern pop dance mix, we do Party Rock Anthem.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to hear that whole thing, right? So we go as far as Want to See You Shake It, and then jump into the next song. And it's good. It works really well. So, you can totally get away with like 2 verses, 2 choruses, get out.
Yeah. And as far as like song selection goes, my band has something called the Wang Chung rule. And that the story goes, I really wanted to do Everybody Have Fun Tonight by Wang Chung, and every single person in the band was like, I don't know. And I was like, I'm the band leader. This is my show. We're doing it. Three shows later, it was gone because it just did not. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And so
nobody wanted to do Dance Hall Days, which I think is the superior song.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably pull it out, but yeah, it's just now referred to colloquially as the Wang Chung rule. You get 3 gigs and you're out.
Yeah. If it doesn't bang by the 3rd gig, it's not happening. Yep.
I like that. I'm gonna
Nice.
remember that one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's interesting because when we were going through our song list, we've been playing these songs in the basement here, and like we play and I think one of the criticisms of bands that use tracks is like they lack energy, and I don't think that has been the case with what we do. And so we're doing these songs in the basement, and we think they're going to go over really well. Like, we play them well. There's no reason, and I think we're going to end up with a couple of Wang Chung tunes. And it's going to be unfortunate because they're songs that we really dig.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we can take those tunes and put them at the front end of a set, the first set, and make those like, hey, let's use these songs as our kind of our sound check songs, right? The first song isn't super crazy involved. It has a decent amount of track and vocal and guitar and bass and whatever, and we can dial in our ears and then hit the ground running after that.
And look,
yeah, I mean the thing about the audience is going to be the ultimate determiner of what does and doesn't work for you guys.
100%.
And so it's hard to get attached to songs because ultimately you have to enjoy doing them, but if the audience isn't following along with you, then you're kind of just like punishing them for your own satisfaction.
Yeah.
Which is also not cool.
Yeah.
So that's always something you need to consider.
That's what you're into doing that.
Yeah. Adam really wanted to Wang Chung tonight, and so you
I
will
did.
will
Nobody-
Wang Chung tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your defense, man, I really think like I thinking about it now, I'm like, that I could see that tune going over really, really well.
There's no through line. It's just, in my market, it's just not the song. I guarantee you there are dozens of bands and doing what we do in other markets, and they do it every night and it crushes. It's just, it's just not working down here. But while we're in the song selection conversation, I did want to say a couple of things, and it kind of ties into something that Dan wanted to hop in on. The description that was provided to us is we want to put on a modifiable but easily repeatable show playing alt rock and pop from 1990 to 2005. And you're kind of filling this kind of gap in the market where you feel like most people are playing like grunge and butt rock and like we're kind of filling this hole. The problem that I'm running into is that looking at your song list and your current set list, that doesn't bear out in the material that's there. To me, it still feels kind of grunge and butt rock heavy compared to some other stuff. Now, I will give you credit that, under the in progress tab, there was a lot of the stuff that I was looking for.
And the backlog, for sure.
Yeah. So I would say that if that's the direction you want to go, I would really prioritize kind of front loading those songs and kind of putting them to the front of the potential, set list material. The other thing that was kind of unusual was that when I was looking at the bands that you are covering, the song selection from those artists wasn't necessarily the ones that I think would be the best to go over. Just off the top of my head, Can't Stop by Red Hot Chili Peppers, It's All Been Done by Bare Naked Ladies, I'll Never Let You Go, Third Eye Blind, and STP. Like there are definitely different songs that I think would be easier to introduce to an audience as like a dry group, like where they don't know you, that I think might be better choices than the ones that are on your current list.
If I can totally hear what you're saying, don't totally disagree. I will say that our current, like if you were looking at the spreadsheet, right, the current repertoire, which is everything that we've fully onboarded so far, we wanted to get up and running as quickly as possible. And so a lot of songs were picked mainly because Brad, Chris, and I already knew them, right? Like it was, nobody's got to woodshed anything, right? So I can totally agree with you that a lot of the stuff that's on there is your very typical cover band stuff. Like, find me a cover band that doesn't play Hey Jealousy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of standards on there.
Worst enemy.
My own dude.
Yeah,
but you know what? That for whatever song. So one of the weird things about the Cleveland market is that, like, because we're a Rust Belt town, right? We're probably 15 years behind Atlanta, right? And we're probably 15 years behind Dan. You're in
Greensboro, North Carolina.
Greensboro?
I bet we're about the same, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I got family in Raleigh, and when I'm in Raleigh and we're bumming around town and checking out, cover bands and bars and stuff like that with my younger sister who's 10 years younger than me and can outdrink me, so it gets difficult. But when we're bumming around town, it's definitely more of that kind of party band, the poppy like. So, I think there's definitely an element. I feel like we did make a conscious decision to some degree to include some of that stuff, right? Because we do want to have some of the stuff that people are a little more familiar with, right? Aside from some of the pop stuff. But I think that's kind of why it looks the way it does right now. And the backlog has a lot more stuff that could fall more into the pop, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, looking down your list, I did a 90s gig on Friday, and we did 6 out of the 20 that you're doing for the St. Ambrose event. So, there's definitely a ton of overlap there. And I was super stoked to see You Get What You Give, because I absolutely love that song. And that's just one of those that not a lot of folks are doing. So
great tune.
But yeah, it wasn't necessarily that they were good choices. It was just that they may not necessarily be the best option. Because like, if I was going to pick a Red Hot Chili Pepper song, it would be like Give It Away or something, like, because it matches the energy. It's, I mean, from like a tempo kind of feel standpoint, it's almost identical to Can't Stop.
That was kind of the thinking I had, Adam. Like, as I looked on that list, the ones you have prepared, in a lot of cases I was like, well, that's that group's number 3 hit.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, let me just say this. So I've shared on the podcast, I was way down a classic rock rabbit hole during the 90s. I had to go back and backfill my 90s knowledge. So I'm not deep in 90s, and deep cuts are going to go over my head, right? So if I'm just somebody walking around that festival, the number 1 hit from Chili Peppers, I'm going to know that one, and I'm be into it. But the number 3 hit, I don't know. It's a risk.
I just want to say, not that we've necessarily done this, but I've been in bands where you start off and you don't want to be like all the other bands.
Yeah.
And so you say, I'm not going to play the number 1 hit. I'm going to play the number 3 hit.
Right.
But then what inevitably happens is you learn the hard way through gigs that doesn't work. Then you do play a number 1 hit from another band. It's like, oh, well, that worked. Maybe we should do more songs like that.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you're playing all the same songs as everybody else.
Yeah.
But those are the songs that work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're doing that, but I just wanted to mention that.
Well, listen, go ahead. Adam.
I tried there was a group when I first started getting back into cover bands. I was in a group called Jukebox Zero, and that was like our entire like concept. Like, we're not gonna play the big hit. We're gonna play like the lesser known stuff. And that band made it less than 6 months. Nobody wanted to hear that. Like, nobody wanted to hear it. So cautionary tale.
Yeah. So listen, we're in the neighborhood of talking about brand now, right? And brand is my jam. It's where I live. So I think that what you've done to narrow the focus of your brand is really smart. And I think it gets you out of that, like, we just play the generic, if it's a general business song, we're doing it, right? You're not going to do Mustang Sally. It doesn't fit your brand, right? You're not going to do Brown Eyed Girl. It's not happening. It doesn't fit your brand. And that's good. That's good. Brand focus is really good. And I like the brand you focused on. I think it's got, I think it's both a strong brand now and probably for the next 10 to 15 years, it'll grow. So I think that was really smart. For the people who haven't seen it, who are listening to this without having seen it, could you describe some of the art you've generated around the brand?
Yeah. And this is a thing that I definitely wanted to ask you guys about too, because we're kind of in this weird kind of 2 logo thing, right? So if you look behind me, you can see the top of our banner. And so the first logo that we had, like, I can screw with Photoshop, right? And I can mock up some stuff, and like I got rudimentary Photoshop skills, right? I think one of the more involved things I've done is, if you went to our Facebook and saw our latest post for our next gig, that's about the limit of my skills. But we paid a dude on Fiverr like $80 to do the cassette tape. So basically, it's a cassette tape with like some very 90s kind of color scheme. It's got like a couple Tetris blocks and a Vans checkered slip-on and a little Furby poking out of the corner. And it just kind of encompasses that whole like mid to late 90s kind of vibe, which I kind of think is where we need to be if we're focusing like up to 2005-ish. And then we have another logo, which is basically just a font that I bought and kind of designed in Photoshop and made it look like a spray paint kind of logo. And I did that out of necessity, really, because the Furby logo is cool, but it takes up a lot of space. It's difficult to fit into certain scenarios.
And it's
right?
detailed, so it doesn't survive shrinking down
like,
very well, right? All the detail doesn't survive shrinking.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you look at our website, when you land on the main page, the cassette with the Furby, that big logo is there. But at the top in the header, where all the links are to the different pages, it's the more like the little spray paint logo that's kind of just text that's in a really cool font.
Yeah.
So, that's we're kind of trying to, trying to make it work in a couple different ways.
Yeah, I think so. The Furby logo is the one that I had so the biggest reaction to. You're right that the black and white spray paint one is fine, but doesn't have a lot of character. But that's okay in some cases. The Furby one is tough because not only is it a hard shape to include in things in a lot of ways, and the detail is such that shrinking it down to put on like a business card, it's going to turn to mush, right? The other thing with it is all those colors are going to make T-shirts and printing really expensive, right? A lot of those things charge by the color, and so I'm just looking. This has like at least 5 colors. Well, 4 maybe. I don't know. Lots.
3,
Well,
4. Yeah, no, it's got.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from if you count out black and white, I'm looking at like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's enough to do like a full color photograph on a shirt, right? Price wise, or something else. If you're going to print in color separation, 4 is sort of where it gets peak expensive. But more than that, I think, and this isn't. I just raise this to think about, not because it's a problem necessarily. But when I looked at that logo with the Furby and the Tetris pieces and the Vans shoe, it felt like the toys of the 90s. It felt like young kid in the 90s is gonna relate to that. But your set list felt like older person in the 90s. The set list felt like I was a teen or a young adult in the 90s, and that the two just didn't seem to quite talk the same story. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think I totally get what you're saying, and I think part of that comes from the fact that, like, outside of Brad, and no offense, Brad, like Chris and I are the same age. I'm 39. Chris is 38. I graduated high school in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Furbies were the thing
Fully.
when I was in high school.
Totally.
We were sitting around smoking cigarettes, talking about how they were going to become self-aware and they were going to take over the world.
No, listen,
the same shit that
I'm with you. And listen, I think I think that's fine. I think if the thing I just want to raise to your attention is that having those sort of toy things, and I will just note Tetris came out in 85. So
fair enough. But the Game Boy.
The Game Boy, okay.
My first communion Game Boy that I got was Tetris.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Again, weren't Game Boys like late 80s? Here's the thing. As I look at this, it feels.
Might have been 90. I don't know.
Okay, all right, fair enough. It feels like this logo feels like it was designed from your experience of the 90s. Which is fine because you had an experience of the 90s, and it was it's what you've centered the brand and thought and feel of this band around, and that's completely fine. The question I would raise is if that is excessive focus, if that focuses too much on a particular age group that were the same age as you were in the 90s versus like, look, there were people in their 30s in the 90s who were listening to pop music. In fact, you're probably hitting them more than you would be if you were focusing on grunge, right? The grunge was like high school, college age. You're going to be hitting like young adults in the 90s who, a Furby, I'm not sure that's their connection to the 90s.
That's fair. Yeah, and and I realize that like our set list doesn't, our current,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like if you ignore the backlog, right? I realize that our current set list doesn't necessarily reflect that.
Yeah.
And as we go forward, I think that's a change that's going to happen as we're going to get more into that. But there was a conscious thing to say like, okay, like I grew up, I'm just thinking about people my age, right?
Yep.
Like, so people my age are, you know, have young kids, right? They were young for the grunge explosion.
Yep.
Right. Like, you know, 93, I was 11 when Kurt Cobain died. Right. Like, you know, so we got the beginning or the end of the grunge thing, and we got the 90s thing, but we also got the beginning of the 2000s emo thing and the My Chemical Romance
Sure.
and the
Yep.
Fall Out Boy stuff and all that stuff. And so my whole thought was to kind of try to gear it toward in between, because those are the people, you know, 5-10 years ago, the people that were going out to see cover bands wanted to hear 80s and or at least they were in the age group where their experience was late 80s, early 90s, you know, the tail end of new wave in the 80s, the beginning of grunge in the 90s. And like my generation is more of that tail end of grunge.
Yep.
And then into, you know, that early 2000s Strokes, Franz Ferdinand, blah, 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 you know, like the stuff that we have in there. Right?
Absolutely.
And so I feel like those are the people that are now, well, given recent, I don't know how many people have disposable income at this point, but like, you know, those are the things where like my generation now, the people that listen to that music, who bought that music at that time, is kind of that age where they're like, hey, we got a sitter for tonight. We're going to go out. We're going to see a band. We're going to drink. We're going to have fun. You know.
Yep.
It's kind of the way I was thinking about it.
No, and it's a totally valid way to think about it. I just want to make sure that it's not that focus on this thing you're calling my generation is a narrowing decision. And that's fine. But you want to be narrow. You want to focus. I would just keep an eye on it as you roll out and as you start to have more and more exposure, that narrowness isn't excessively limiting. That's the thing I would keep an eye on. And it'd be really easy to tweak your branding to be a little broader and just hit a little bit of a wider demographic.
Dan, I think I understand what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying that it needs to be more inclusive in terms of the audience that we're attracting, because we could be attracting people that are much younger than us or people that are older than us.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, you know, there are people that are younger than us that have no clue what a Furby is, right?
Yeah,
or
right,
people that are older
right.
than us that never gave a shit about Furbies.
Right.
You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, while it's cool and there's a niche there, if we want to pack more houses, we have to be as inclusive as possible while still maintaining that brand identity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, Isaac, I'm being careful not to say it needs to be anything. I think it's a valid choice to narrow and focus. I think that's valid. And in fact, it's a powerful choice. Can be, if you can connect with that market in your marketing. I would just keep an eye on whether that starts to feel like a constricting limitation as you go forward. That'd be my advice about that. I think, you know, I would not say to change direction now about that, unless, you know, you guys met after this and like, oh God, we have to, you know, whatever. If this spurs some thinking, that's cool. But I would keep an eye on, boy, I look around the room and the people we're connecting with, they are all 38, every one of them. And there's some 45-year-olds sitting over there who don't, or like, we're not in their world, right? If that starts to show up around you in your marketing or your socials or you're in the room, yeah, it's a hint that maybe a little bit of a broader look at who was around in the 90s would be a smart thing.
It's tough. A lot, like you're kind of saying, depending on how old you are, people have different ideas of what the 90s were.
Totally, 100%.
I mean,
absolutely.
And
absolutely.
If I could just use one example that I brought up to the band, there's a band called Saved by the 90s that comes through Cleveland sometimes, and they just have a completely, I'm not putting them down. It's fine. It's just the very cartoony version of the 90s.
Yeah.
But then I think to people who are 10, 20 years younger than me, that's probably what they think the 90s were.
Right.
Whereas to me, who was in the 90s, I'm like, that's not what it was
Right.
like.
No,
So
and
it's
that,
just,
yeah, and that's how I feel about the 80s, having been there, right? That's the same, exactly the same thing.
I mean, we deal with that a lot because, we don't wear wigs or costumes or things like that. But that is a thing that people do because, again, you're entertainment. Your job is to make people feel or forget what they're feeling for a little bit and take them somewhere. And so if you're trying to, dig into that nostalgia, then it's, you have a little more leeway with, the cartoony silliness component of it. But people do, again, like we were saying, people do that shtick because it works.
Yeah.
And, inevitably, I struggle with this a lot. Again, we're talking about, it's the Wang Chung rule, that we think as musicians that what we love and what we think is important is what matters to the audience. And like, this is borne out time and time again that like the audience doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like my experience is like so specific and unique to me that it can be, I almost like immediately dismiss my instincts when it comes to the kind of stuff that, we want to do.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I say that all the time. I've come to learn through hard experience that whenever I think to myself, oh man, this is so lame, that usually means people are going to love it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I had to have that talk with my current band about Mustang Sally. Like, no, we're doing it. Trust me. And it crushes. It always crushes.
Adam,
I gotta say, I got a soft spot. I got a soft spot for Mustang Sally because that was my dad and my stepmom's like dance song. Like when I was a teenager and I went out with them and they were like, "Oh, there's a band we want to see," and I saw like my father try to dance for the first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good.
Just saying, I got a soft.
It's the
spot
good
for
stuff.
Mustang
It's
Sally.
good stuff. 100%. Yeah.
Adam, what in generally speaking, what does matter to audiences? Like, what is like, especially the audiences that are going to see a cover band? If you removed the
I would say
genre or the era or the,
they want something that makes them feel like they did when things were simpler. They want to sing along to a song that they have heard 1,000 times, but makes them feel like they're in high school.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want to be able to drink beer and like hug the closest person next to them and just scream whatever it is, that makes them feel good. That's what they want.
Yeah. That catharsis of the whole, like everybody in the room singing What's Up by Four Non Blondes, at the top of their lungs, that like, it's the cheesiest thing. It's like bad music, but it's so cathartic.
The way that I always think about it is like, imagine what song would you play where you, Isaac, the vocalist, just throws your mic out like up in the air and you hear it being like screamed back at you by like 300 people. That's what you should, those are the songs you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's if you're in the 90s world, it's gonna be Wonderwall. It's going to be
it's gonna be Santeria.
My Own Worst Enemy. Yeah, it's gonna be those songs because those are it. It's the easiest way to kind of gauge what should and shouldn't, make it to the stage.
I sometimes say that
sorry.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, how do you walk the line then? How do you walk that kind of that line between, something that's just so overplayed and, passe to also giving the people what they want, that cathartic, sing along moment. Like, you don't want to play stale music, but you also don't want to lose your audience. So how do you walk that line? It seems like a delicate balance.
To me, it's a matter of adjusting what makes me feel good about performing a song. So just for context, my main band is an 80s band. It's called Members Only. We've been together for just over 8 years. Every single show we have ever played, we end with Don't Stop Believin'. And it's not going to be a question of, do we play Don't Stop Believin'? Because we're going to play Don't Stop Believin'. And the thing that I enjoy about it is the fact that, like, it doesn't matter whether, like, there's 1,000 people or you're down to, like, the last, like, 5 diehards. They're right up front and they are just screaming those words back at you. That's what's fun about it to me.
Yeah.
And it's there's the technical part of it. Like, it's the fact that I've been singing for 3 hours and I can still, like, I'm still hitting those notes, and, like, there's a little bit of, like, there's a little show offness to it. But yeah, you have to find a way to get around your, I don't know. I think we're as musicians, we're kind of just snotty and kind of pretentious about things.
Yeah.
And we're also precious about stuff that doesn't necessarily make a difference. And so it is a mental switch. It's a thing that you've got to exercise.
I'll say this too. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, here's what I'll say. This is more Wang Chung. If I got to pick every song that my band played, we'd be doing Satisfied by Richard fucking Marx. And we're never going to play Satisfied by Richard Marx because nobody wants to hear that song except for me.
It. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I want to hear it.
That's a great way to sum it up, Adam. I think it's because we have these conversations, and I'm gonna throw Creston under the bus a little bit because he is the king of the deep
Do it.
cut. So we played in a 90s band prior to
That's why there's a Nick Cave picture on my wall. Right, I'm all deep cut, baby.
we're talking about songs by bands, and so I'm a little older than these guys. I was a parent in the 90s, and so I had 2 kids in the 90s. So, like, I kind of crossed that bridge from the young generation who's out in bars now to the older generation that's out in bars now. But it's funny because, like, I thought that I knew a lot of 90s stuff, and I always thought, like, the songs that we want to play are the ones that are going to make people sing. And that can be a challenge from some of the 90s stuff, right? Because it's a different era of music coming from the 80s and all that stuff. But we would make a suggestion for a band, and Creston would pull some deep cut off of a obscure EP that they released in Japan. I'm like, man, we can't play that, dude. So they're like, you're growing up and you're listening to these songs, and I grew up in the 80s, right? So, like, I wanted to replace Tico Torres and Bon Jovi. I love that guy, but that's who I wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a lot of Bon Jovi songs that I wish I could play in an 80s band, but I know you got to play Living on a Prayer.
Yep.
Right.
You do.
And I think that's where you find that differentiation, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to want to play this particular tune, but you do have to, in some cases, pander to your audience and play My Own Worst Enemy instead of that other song that Creston says by Lit that no one else knows but Creston.
Well, yeah. So we'll kind of
look. It was a hit.
We'll bookmark the song selection thing and move on.
Well, let me just say one quick thing first.
Yeah.
It's possible that Stale is a musician's perspective and not an audience's perspective.
100%.
Right. And then I'm gonna give you a counterexample to that. There was a time when Wonderwall was totally burned. It was a joke. It was a joke song for everybody, not just musicians. Like, it started playing and it was like, because it got desperately overplayed on the radio. It was horrible, and now I pull it out acoustic. I don't do it with my band yet. They don't know it's coming. I pull it out acoustic and the place goes crazy and everybody sings along with it. It's totally come back around. And I think I think knowing that is just about being dialed in. It's about experimenting with stuff. I kind of put it on as a joke the first time and then, like, was surprised at what happened in the room. So I think you have to feel those things out. I don't think there's any formula to it. I think the song is going to stay dead as long as it's dead. But then they come back and the good ones do. And Wonderwall's a great song. I mean, really just a great song.
Right. I'm hopping in to defend Creston.
Okay.
This is our last thing we'll say about song selection. The songs that make you want to, to really get into and get those deep cuts and those kinds of things, that is a choice to make on the 3rd to 5th return to the same venue with a built-in audience.
Oh,
When you've built up enough rapport with a crowd that they trust you enough to take them somewhere in order to kind of like keep things fresh for them, so that you're not just showing them, you're not serving them the same cheeseburger every single time they see you. So I'm not saying that those things don't have a place and they don't belong somewhere. They just don't need to, they shouldn't be the thing that you like storm the castle with on the first go round.
Point.
Yep.
I dig it, because I know Brad can attest to this, because he was playing in a band where they literally never changed their set list. Like never.
And it was brutal, right? It was brutal.
And they're playing the same 5-6 places like time and time again, and they never changed like very overbooked in the area and never changed their set list.
Yeah, it's miserable.
People would be like, how come we only get 10 people here tonight? I don't know.
Well,
maybe because they've heard us 10 other times in this place playing new songs.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, going through the list, they say you guys feel like you've got there's some things that you feel like you need help with. And I think we're probably at that part of the conversation. Under this, it says socials, content creation, promotion, and building a client list, and then just kind of like booking shows and that kind of thing. So I think that's probably the next place that we need to dig into. So, we both kind of scraped all of your social media and your website, and there was a couple of things that jumped out at me initially. And some of them were just kind of like nitpicky things, but there was some other stuff. Like specifically on your website, you have a thing that says, "Do you have a tech writer?" And it says, "Yes, it's right here," and there's no link, and so they can't download that. But like beyond that, there was the one thing that I was really missing on everything, on your website, on your Facebook, and on your Instagram. There's not a stitch of footage. There's not a stitch of audio. And it's like, I want to believe the things I'm reading, and I want to dig. Like, my favorite picture of, like, from the band was the one of you guys sitting just at a table at a bar. Like, that's my favorite one.
It was good.
Because it shows you as people.
Yeah.
But I don't have any concept of what you sound like or what the experience is going to be like. So, I know you guys haven't played a show yet, but there are things that you can do, in the meantime to kind of fill that gap. Any sort of audio, even if it's just recording rehearsals and stuff, like would help get what you're all about out there. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could literally just be your logo with some audio under it.
Well, I can share with you. I can share with you what I've done. So
Spotify.
Yeah, I'm in the same place. I'm in the same place as you are. I'm a brand new project and coming out cold, right? So we recorded some multi-tracks in the practice room, and I mixed them down and made them sound great. And I actually used DistroKid to put them up on all the streaming platforms. We're on Apple Music and Spotify and all the others. And I have spread our links around to people, and they sound. I mean, I'm not a professional sound engineer, but they sound fairly professional. It's a good representation of what we do. I have a couple of times walked into places and said, let me see your I noticed they're playing music off Spotify. I was like, let me just see that. And I put our tracks on the house system. It was just kind of an aggressive move, but it worked. Yeah. Like, hey, this is us. Check us out. This is, you should have us here. So that's one way just to get out, is to take recordings of what you're doing, which right now isn't shows or, the other thing I did was I created for myself a house party, a house show on a friend's back porch, literally, to do a bunch of video capture and start making those marketing pieces. I brought my fog machine and, my Chauvet gig bar with the shiny lights and everything. And it looked amazing. So yeah, I think that is a thing I would encourage you to spend some effort on, is getting collateral together that shows you actually, delivering the goods.
This is yep. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
And once you have that, go ahead and go into your bio and take out the part that says that you are brand new.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you formed in 2021, that's cool. But like, don't put 2022 if you're trying to, you know, book shows this year. You don't have to say it at all.
Yeah.
You guys, for all we know, you guys have been together for, you know, 7 years and you're just kind of rolling through town. So, a lot of times with bios, people feel compelled to like share too much, and you get to control the narrative. So
Creston was born at a very early age. He began playing music when he was, don't do any of that. It's unnecessary. Nobody's going to read it.
Websites and social media are to make you look cool, and that's it.
Yeah. Dan, I completely agree with what you're saying. That those are conversations that we've had. We've kind of been in a position where, we've kind of been in a position where we're very focused on getting ready for the first gig, to where we've kind of, I feel like we've ignored some of that. Our idea was we rehearse in Brad's basement, and it's tight, right? You know, there's a cal mill around the kit and, you know, the whole shebang. It eats up a lot of space. But our idea was we've got several iPhones that have good quality cameras. I've got a gimbal. I got a DJI, right? Gimbal, and we've got a GoPro, and we can, you know, our whole thought was to take a rehearsal. And I think at this point, it's probably going to be our first rehearsal after the first gig. And we can put up a bunch of stationary cameras, and then I can have my wife with the gimbal or something, you know, just moving around and getting different cool shots, and just let it record, let it roll, just get cool shots. We can edit out whatever.
Yep.
I've been in that scenario before with other bands where I've had like 3-4 cameras. You pull it all into Final Cut, and, you know,
exactly.
You do your thing. Yeah. And I told Brad last night, after we had our band meeting about the set list, I was like, look, we need to start recording our rehearsals, for 2 reasons. One, because we need content, right? And that's one of the things I put on that sheet, that we really need help figuring out. Like, we need to create content, right? Because it's a content game online, right? You can't just, you know, like so many people, like Schulte talks about all the time in the Slack channel, right? And on the different episodes that he's on, like, you can't just share your Facebook event anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't just do that anymore. You've got to share the ad, like the copy, the poster, whatever you make, right? It can't just be the ad. And that you need content to push out to people, because people want to see video. They want to hear audio. They want, you know. So I think that's a thing that we really need, just kind of like ideas on different things to create outside of, hey, we're rehearsing in a room, you know, whatever. And that was kind of our idea with a bunch. Sorry, what was that?
Oh no, sorry, Kristen. I was going to say, I love the backyard concert idea. I think that's a fabulous idea. Dan.
That's a killer idea.
I know a couple of people with great backyards that would perfectly fit that sort of scenario, you know. And like you can control the lighting, you can control the, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like you can make it.
Brett's got lights.
Yeah.
That's great. Great.
So absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, we definitely need help on that end. But yeah, and I've mentioned before, Dan, you gave me the idea with the Spotify thing. Like, I'd used DistroKid before in like original bands and stuff like that, but I didn't realize that you could just be a cover band and like DistroKid handles all that.
Yeah,
the licensing,
they take care of the whole
you can
thing.
Just send it up, and
it's super easy.
So I think that's going to be a big step for us, because like I'm sitting here, like I can just we can record it straight from the X32, right? But I can also just bring my Mac Mini over and plug a monitor into it and just dump it all straight into Tools or whatever. And
yeah. You know, I'm not sure you need to get, you know, all that creative. I think, you know, hey, here's what's coming. Here's what we're cooking in the practice room, like inside look kind of, you know, I think that's plenty. I think a few of those over a few weeks would start to build something.
Yeah, I think you're kind of getting wrapped around the axle of the production quality type stuff. Like with content, that's not at all what that's about. What people are looking for they're looking for the people.
Yeah.
that are making the music.
Yes.
And whether or not they can, relate to them. So don't worry about production value. If it's phone audio with two of you playing acoustic guitars, that's enough. You could this is just off the top of my head. This one's on the house. Playing Wonderwall in just random parts of the city, or like going into a public place and just starting to play Wonderwall. Just like somebody with a phone and an acoustic guitar, just go into like
just busting it
places.
out. Today's gonna be the day.
I'll do it all day.
That's it.
I'll do it all day, any day, all day, every day.
I think it's great.
That's all. That's content.
Yeah.
So again, don't get too caught up in the this is the trap that everybody gets into is that, well, as soon as we get this, we'll be ready. As soon as you're past that.
Yeah.
If you've got an iPhone, you've got everything you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and content is a quantity game, not a quality game.
Nope. Because as soon as you put 7 videos out of you doing Wonderwall in 7 different places, you're on to the next.
Suddenly that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't have to be precious about it. Just do something, see if it works. If it does, then move on.
Yep.
That's it.
You guys are spitting wisdom. I like it.
Yeah,
We've done this a few times.
Yeah, and the quality thing, that was always like, I get super anal retentive about sound because as a guy with a degree in audio engineering, it's just my nature.
Yeah.
You should go. You know what?
So
you should
I have to fight that.
You should go to my TikTok account where I do a head-to-head with my Apogee Element 24 versus the Soyuz mic launcher in line. Nobody got it right. Nobody. And I've got guys who are like, out in LA who are like full-time engineers.
Is that like a cloud lifter type situation?
But it's got character. It's supposed to sound like an analog console.
It's got Cinemag transformers.
You cannot tell the difference.
Yeah.
And that's with professional people. Again, we live in this musician bubble where we think that the things that we think matter, and they don't.
Remember that the thing that blew up Schulte in the Pork Tornado, since you mentioned him, was like an afterthought. That video of Tennessee Whiskey, right? That he hated. They didn't like the way they recorded that song. Didn't feel good to him, and it exploded and it put them where they are. So, it really is about just and he put it out because I need something this week.
That's it.
So all right, just need something this week. That's the game.
That's an excellent question. So how often should we be putting out new content of that type, whether it's just a video or whatever? How often should we be putting that out, and how long should it be? Like, is it sufficient enough that we're at rehearsal and I grab my phone and the gimbal and I pull it over and I'm like,
you've already overthought it.
Yeah, gimbal was too much.
It's too late. It's gone. The whole moment. You grab the gimbal and the moment ended.
Yeah.
It's literally like oh man,
this is a cool thing.
That's it.
People should see this.
That's how all right, so you guys are raise your hand if you're a church guy, like church player. You know how you are supposed to pray without ceasing? Well, that's what content creation is also.
Content creation without ceasing.
I mean, in all and there's no through line. There's nothing, there's all this talk about like parent content where you make long form things that you can break down into short things that you can share on different platforms and different formats. But the fact of the matter is that every format, every platform has a different tone to it. And you just got to find a thing that works for you and the kind of thing that you can make. So if it doesn't mean you shouldn't try all of the things. So make some vertical video, post it on Reels and see if it gets anywhere. Post it on TikTok, see if it gets anywhere. If it doesn't go there, post it on Shorts on YouTube, see if it gets anywhere. If that doesn't work, put it on Reels on Facebook. See if that, because there's all of these different ways that you can kind of thread the needle. But unless you are staring into a camera, writing a script, just pick up your phone and talk into it. That's it. That's all you've got to do. And the more that you think about it, the less effective it's probably going to be. I don't know how many times if you go through TikTok is my time suck, but I remember when I first started, like I was like green screening and like recording the audio and then doing all these overlays and like putting the and then it would get like 20 views. And I spent hours of my life that I'll never get back on a 20-second video that nobody watched. And then I sit in a private party sipping a glass of champagne that says, they told me not to talk to anybody, but I'm an introvert, so I don't care. 360,000 views. Just like that. So don't overthink it. You're overthinking it.
Can I ask a question about this?
So,
Oh,
no, go ahead, Chris.
okay. I'm, despite being 38, I understand that social media is a game now. Do you guys find that getting engagement and getting likes, all that crap, does that drive people to shows? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to pack bars and play shows. And I understand social media is a part of that, but my biggest worry is getting people to see us. Do you find that doing all this actually brings people to the show?
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. Now, we'll use, if you guys aren't familiar, there's a guy named Mike who is a part of kind of our little community. He's got a band out of Cedar Rapids called the Pork Tornadoes. They were
I've mentioned them to these guys many times.
They were a bar band that, just kind of got into the content creation game a little bit. And this Tennessee Whiskey video netted them like 4 million views on YouTube. And all of a sudden, they're not playing bars anymore. They're playing theaters. They're playing
stadiums,
like amphitheaters.
They sold out the baseball park in their town. They put a stage on the pitching mound, and the whole stadium was sold out, including ground seating. Like, these guys are suddenly enormous. They're enormous, like a touring act.
I can believe that. I just can't help but feel that getting a viral video like that's almost like hitting the lottery.
It is.
Well, but of course it is. But I mean, the thing about virality is that some of it can be, manufactured, or there are tricks to manipulating the algorithm in a way that can get you there. But don't think that the effort put into those things isn't worthwhile, because ultimately online followings give you a physical manifestation of the quality of your work. So if you want to play at a restaurant, or you want to play at a venue, you want to play at a club, you want to play at an amphitheater, whatever, and you need to talk to a person, or you need to talk to some sort of gatekeeper that holds that in their hands, and you go, I think we'd be a good fit for this. The first thing they're going to check is your website and your social media. And if you've got 40 followers, they're probably not going to respond. If you've got 8,000, 10,000 followers, they're probably going to be interested, because it shows a couple of things. It shows that you are established to a certain degree. It shows that you have a general sensibility and kind of with itness, I guess you could call it.
Well, and that what you're delivering is
seriously.
popular. That people actually are responding to what you're putting out, right?
I understand that. I guess I wanted to actually ask this later, but one of my biggest fears, which I've experienced, is I call it the sophomore slump. You play your first shows, and your wife comes out, your kids come out, your aunt, whoever, yada yada. 5 shows later, they've all dropped off.
Yes.
And you're still not a popular band. You're pretty new, but you're a new band with nobody who wants to come to your shows anymore. Like, how do you make it through that to point C, from A to C, where you are a popular band?
So here's what you do. You get people to shoot those first 3 shows.
Yeah.
And you now have footage of you performing to a packed house that you put 5 to 10 second snippets on social media once every 3 to 5 days.
Yeah. That's the point of that backyard party, by the way. Who do you think came to that?
Dad.
Yeah.
Kids,
Yep.
wife.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, and I got to be honest, like I would love for us to do that for our second gig. We just booked a second gig at this place in town called Brothers Lounge. That's it is a purpose-built music venue. Bar in the front, piano bar in the side, in the back. It is a purpose-built place for music.
Nice.
Killer sound. Isaac, because he's out of town, he's never played there. Chris, I'm sure you've played there before. Brad and I have played there a bunch of times. And I've actually played there in a different band where we had a ton of video shot with like the automatic, moving, you know what I'm talking about? That thing, right? And like a couple guys with cameras and the whole, it was like 5-6 cameras and like got edited all together and ended up looking insane. And that's, I was going to bring that up to the guys at some point. Like that's probably an ideal place to do that, because I don't know how many people will get out to our first gig, because honestly, we're not promoting the first gig that heavy, right? I plan on promoting the second gig heavier. The first gig, like, yeah, we want people there, whatever, but it's also kind of a, it's a shakedown run, right?
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
Are we all good on our ear mixes? We're all on modelers. I have never used my Helix Live. Never. Right? I'm building all my presets and making sure that everything's okay by measuring everything in LUFS and looking at the RTA and Logic and making sure that my highs aren't too high and my lows aren't too low, so that, Fletcher Munson curves come into play when it gets cranked up, that it's not insane. Like, so it's really this kind of like shakedown run, of
It
like
is.
a new,
That's right.
like you do with a new ship or something. You
That's
know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
Right, but I would argue that the first thing that you should prioritize for that first show is looking cool, because it doesn't matter if it sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you guys play to tracks. You're playing to a click. You can go into the rehearsal space, record your rehearsal. It can be absolutely perfect, and then you lay that synced audio over that video footage, and it looks and sounds great. And nobody who wasn't there would they're not going to know the difference.
That's right.
So look cool.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters as much on the first gig than look cool. I mean, that's
right.
not entirely
Not
true.
entirely
but
true.
It's prioritize it.
Now, and I will say, you're in.
I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, and we're going to be good.
Yes,
Go for
me
it.
too. But your instincts about the second gig are right. Look, you want to leverage. I call it new band energy. Right? And you can, by the way, you can sell that into venues. Like, listen, we're all pros. We all know what we're doing, but this is a new project, and all the wives and cousins and aunts and uncles are coming out. So you want to be the venue that gets that. So let's sell our first 2 or 3 gigs into this. I have sold some stuff. Got some gigs on the strength of, look, we're a new project. You can trust us because we've been around as people, but this is a new thing and it's going to have some heat around it. But for sure, you can also leverage that for getting really quality, crowd engagement audio or, video people dancing to you and like all of the stuff that you want to parlay that.
So I guess my question would be now, so we've looked at like, I'm really interested and I really want to pick up the Mevo 3 camera, right? I mean, to me, when I saw y'all talking about that was like a freaking revelation.
It's amazing.
I was like, this is incredible.
It's amazing.
And it seems like everybody in the group has been picking them up.
Yeah.
But like, so my question is, outside of that, right? Is it really worth the financial outlay to hire some videographer type people to come in and really shoot it like pro?
Yes.
Yes. 100%, because
like
you don't know what you need and you have no way of articulating it while you're performing. So hire somebody. And they don't have to like, even if it's just like two camera ops or even one camera op with a couple of static cameras.
Yeah.
That would be better than you guys kind of guesstimating where, the camera should be and what does or doesn't end up getting captured. It's much better to have live human beings who have an eye for aesthetics and composition shooting those things for you than it is to just kind of, run it. Like Dan has those, but you still hired somebody.
I did. At that backyard party, I hired a guy who, I only had 3 at the time. Now I have 6, which is enough coverage for it's probably too many. But the guy running around.
I saw your Pelican case. I was
I
like,
know.
damn, dude.
It's really, I've really gone all in. But the dude and I will say he did have a gimbal. But he was able to like come in on, me when I'm soloing or, back on the bassist and catch her when she was in some moment. And that the movement of the camera adds a lot, even just that. And the guy I hired, He's new to the game, and he was not expensive. And would somebody who's really, really sharp at that have given me better video? Maybe. But the fact of him roving around, catching good moments, it really elevated what I was able to make. So,
The greatest piece of footage I have for my bands is a 3-second clip of a blonde girl standing by a bar in slow motion, putting her arms up over her head and closing her eyes and screaming.
Nice.
That is worth whatever I had to pay the camera ops for that.
100%.
Because I can put that in any single shot and that immediately goes, these guys are fun.
It's a great party.
And hot blonde girls have a good time at their shows.
Yep.
And that's all
And you
people
can
care
cut
about.
that. You can cut that into anything.
100%.
You can cut that into every single thing that you put anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's
let me ask-
always my direction. My direction is I need you to do two things. I need footage of us looking cool and people having fun. That's it. Nothing else is important. We need
So
to
I
look
guess
cool
my
and they need to have fun.
So I guess my question is, and granted, our markets are very different. I haven't been to Atlanta in years, but I know it a little bit. What do you think is an acceptable amount of money? Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, right? If we were all blues lawyers, look, like Brad and I are lowly tech dudes and whatever, like.
Yeah, but you work for churches, don't you? Yeah, either
Well,
y'all
I'm
work
a
for,
volunteer. Brad works for the church.
right. But what I'm saying is that there's plenty of those guys who, are in production that have the right gear that you could sweet talk with maybe $100, maybe a 6-pack of beer, maybe both. But like, again, they're not cutting the video. You're going to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just
I would
paying them
cut
to
it.
shoot footage.
Yeah.
A couple $100 per person tops is all that should take.
I paid my one guy.
So like if we're spending more than $500 to $800, we're doing it wrong.
Yep.
Well, you should.
100%.
I mean,
Okay.
I would expect finished product for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Unless you're
Wow.
going to like a
All right.
soundstage and doing motion graphics.
That one
that's a totally
that
different
one
story.
band I played with got really ripped off.
Yeah.
I've done it for less than that.
Yeah.
I was in a band where the band I was in where they had the guys come out and shoot at the venue that we're going to play our second gig at, like I was a hired gun for that thing. And they charged those guys like upwards of $2,500.
No, I want full multi-track audio and motion
And I
graphics
edited it.
in every. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah. No, I would have much higher expectations
Okay.
for that kind of price. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I the good news is like you guys have like 90% of like everything that you need.
Yeah.
The regimentation, the documentation, the work that you have been doing is not in vain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you've got-
I feel like, a lot of this conversation has been sort of aimed at what could improve the opportunities, but I think there's a lot that you're doing that's right. I think that you are thinking things through really well headed into your first, exposure to the public. So I think there's a lot here that is really well set up.
Yeah. So don't,
Awesome.
If you walk away with anything, just know that you guys are 100% on the right path. And most of the stuff that you're just going to find this stuff out as
Yeah.
you kind of go, because,
Yeah.
ultimately when you are creating things in a vacuum, your instincts are the only things that you have to work off of.
Right.
And, the crowds and your potential audience is going to kind of determine the rest.
Yeah. And you just kind of keep your ears open, you keep your eyes open, you see what's working, you see what's not. This whole thing works best when you are, I'm going to say something that seems like it argues against the thing that I just said. Right? This whole thing works best when you're iterative about it. When you take out a show, learn from what happened, learn from what didn't happen, adjust, refine, bring the next show out, learn from that. So there is all this like great preparation up to the first show, but then you got to get on stage unattached. You got to get on stage like, I'm here to do what I'm here to do, and I'm here to learn from it. And And I hear you guys really set up for both. So it's I'm really excited to watch you guys develop and evolve and come out. It's I'm sure Creston will keep us posted in the Slack group as things evolve out there.
I mean, that's a great I've been trying without kind of telling everybody and dragging them into it. And I think, Dan, you'll get this because you're a software guy, right? I've been trying to run this band with kind of an agile scrum mentality.
When I saw that the
So
song
if you
list was
look at
called
our
a backlog, I was like, oh, somebody's in software. I think I get this. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been trying to do that with minimum changes, right? What's the minimum valuable what's the minimum product, right? What's the smallest changes we can make at one time and kind of keep building on everything as we go.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That's exactly the attitude you're taking. So you prepare, get as ready as you can do, bring that thing out, and then see how it does. That's the move. That's where you are right now. And it's exciting. It's a really exciting moment. I'm really excited for you guys.
We're excited.
Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah.
Adam, best advice you can give to a front guy?
Is this like your thing that have you been like fronting a group for a while, or is this kind of like a new thing for you?
This is new for what I'm doing here. I've done some things before. I was a singer-songwriter in Nashville, and it's never been at this level before where we're really trying to it's a lot of. First of all, I've never done the tracks the way that they're doing them, so it's it's a new kind of experience. But I like it. It's just, I guess maybe my biggest worry is that I won't bring enough energy because of how precise we have to be. But I don't know, I don't feel
like tracks are limiting in that sense. I feel like for me, it actually makes it easier because I can goof off and not worry about stuff because it's going to take me where I need to go. My recommendation for people who are not comfortable being front people just yet is sunglasses. It's the easiest way to
that's a good recommendation.
to get around it.
I have
they do make me look really, really fucking cool.
That
Sorry.
too. That too.
I wear sunglasses for my band's gigs until I can't, but like for the most part, it works on a number of levels. It doesn't look like I'm looking at my guitar neck when I'm working, and there's an aloofness to it that definitely works.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't overthink it. Have fun.
I got another.
If you have fun and it looks like you're having fun, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And then the other thing. Oh, how do I say this? When you notice that your attention is on you, take your attention off you. Right? Don't have that be wrong. Don't have yourself be, did screwed up. Just take your attention off you. Get your attention out there. Your job as a frontman is to be out there and be connected with them. That's the whole job. There's really nothing more to do than that. And so you'll be out there except when you're over here. And then you'll be over here until you notice you're over here. And the minute you notice it, you're out there. So I know that's like some Zen nonsense right there, but notice when you're here.
I feel
That's
like
the
Isaac
thing.
can vibe with the Zen thing.
Notice when you're here. That's the whole mission.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, good.
I get it.
Cool.
I have, before we wrap up, I do have a question about tracks. And this is something that Brad and I have talked about. Just coming from a guy that's, I've been on tour. I've been on national tours running monitors. I've done that. I run sound a good deal. And I'm wondering, what is better and how do you handle it? Is it better to mix all your tracks down and send front of house? So, we got a split, right? So we're just sending front of house, right? They get everything, whatever. It's not affected by us. Is it better to send them a left, right of your mix that you've already mixed down, right? And limited and normalized so that every set of tracks is the same level? Or is it better to send them like 6, 7, however many, right, individual tracks you need to send them. And then if you are sending them, like I don't know where you get your we pull all of our stuff from karaokeversion.com.
Yep.
And it's some of the stuff's hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
Some of the guitars sound like absolute garbage.
Yep.
Some of them sound really good. So and the levels are different on everything. And the last thing that I want to do is have some sound guy in a club who does this 3 nights a week and can give a shit have to worry about chasing faders, right, for our tracks. And so like my approach was going to be to sit down with Brad and Ableton and show him like how you can normalize things, right, so that everything's at the same level. Like try to hit like negative 18 dB or whatever the 0 VU equivalent is, and do that with like every track so that everything is a consistent volume that we're sending to front of house. Do you do anything like that? Is it like, how do you handle that?
Let me answer your question with another question. If you go through all of that effort, do you think the audience will care?
No.
Okay.
Cool.
We've done it both. We've done it both ways. I've done it down to like a split stereo, and we've got it split out now, just so that things can be a bit more flexible, because rooms are different and spaces are different, and it gives our front of house guy, which we normally hire out and have somebody who does that, for us, more to work with. But I don't expect that to matter to anybody but me.
Got it. Because that was the other thing too. Is like,
I'm sorry to answer Brad's
just-
question. We navigate an arrangement view because the way that we use markers, we don't have things split out that way. And you can use we use the marker indicators to navigate through the set. It's just easier that way for me and for our drummer.
we use Tiffany to tell us where we are.
Yeah.
You know Tiffany, right, Adam?
Is she one tooth?
Yeah. One
One
tooth.
tooth.
That is
1, 2, 3,
actually
4.
her name. We verified that's her name. She's a
Yeah.
lady in Nashville who recorded all those.
That's funny.
But yeah, I like arrangement view for that too, right? So you have the ability to, if someone comes up and requests a song, I can easily bounce to a song in the set.
Yep.
And then get back. That works out really well.
Yeah, the Stream Deck, lets you do the thing where you can jump forwards and backwards and markers and stuff real quickly. So it's been it's a cool little tool.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
I understand you as a touring professional, like really wanting to get into the minutia of the details and stuff. I just think that with you guys kind of just being on the front of this kind of like situation, I wouldn't get wrapped around the axle with.
Well, and even more than that,
details.
listen, I've been the bar band that does. I've been the one bar band in my whole scene that does tracks and in-ears. Right? And just that. And I've only ever done the 2-track MP3, click on the left, track on the right, it's a mono thing. That just, compared to what we were competing against, selling against, that elevated us so far beyond what anybody else was doing. Just to be on in-ears, just to have some horns we could fly in, So, I think if you, Adam can tell us if there's ever a point at which audiences care about that. And I think the answer we just got is no. For sure, like where you guys are starting from, festivals and bars and stuff like that, the details like that are, we're going to obsess over them because it's our nature. But the reality is, what works is going to work.
And I need to take my own advice.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Let me.
So we just.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, so I've done it both ways now. So I've done it where I bring in the whole shoot and match route, out to 4 or 5 different outputs in a board, so that the sound guy does have control over that. And then in another band, I fill in with. By the way, Adam, your fill-in video that you posted a couple days ago, like you want to be the first guy call that was a really cool video. And I was going to comment on it, but
You did comment it. I responded back to it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So like for a drummer, that gig is, it's infinitely easier for a drummer to start out a handful of songs. I really admire a bass player, a guitar player, singer being able to go into a situation like that where you get a call on a Thursday, talk about Setlist on Friday, and play gigs Saturday night. That's so impressive. But so this band, I'm sitting in with a band on Friday night, and they do left and right. And in Ableton, I really dig the simplicity of setting up my arrangement view that way, right? I run it to the 2-channel Scarlett, run the out to them, and then it's so much cleaner in arrangement view to just drop that one track in and not have to worry about.
For sure.
I just wanted to. I think the sound, I think, will be the sound, right? We'll normalize the sounds and everything will be cool. It's really about the flexibility of the sound guy. Our front of house guy. Does he have the flexibility to bring up a piano part that needs to bring maybe a little more center or front? I don't know.
Yeah.
Without watching, it's easy. It's easy to see the guitarist step forward to take a solo, and know I need to ride that fader. But if it's coming from a track, like, I don't know. If you have your own front of house guy, they could learn that. But a house dude, like, I don't know.
Do you feel like at this point in where we're at, there is a value in if we go to play somewhere where we need to bring production? Like Brad's got these old JBLs that we've used for some stuff. It's like 215s and a horn, right? But you can't put them up on poles. So they're always just at the level. So the tweeters are just like right at everybody's ears, which is where you don't want them to be. But, and they're passive, right? We card a power amp and blah, blah. So I'm running sound for this fill-in gig on Friday. I'm going to go to Guitar Center. Apparently Guitar Center is really cheap to rent a PA for a night. I'm getting 2 12s and an 18-inch sub for like $100.
Yep.
I was like, damn, that's pretty good. So my question becomes, on these gigs, inevitably, where we will have to provide production, I'm okay eating the cost and not charging ahead, not charging extra, right? Because Cleveland is very much still $100 a guy kind of. I've heard you guys talk about it a million times. It's $100 a guy kind of deal, right? You got a 4-piece band, you're going to make $400. It's $100 a guy, right? We want to get beyond that, obviously. But so my question becomes, is there value at this stage in our development to hiring out a sound guy? We know some guys that we could call, like Brad, like we could call Jeff, right? Like a dude that we, went to church with and has done all that, right? And he can bring out a system, or we could rent some stuff and just hand him an iPad and he'd be fine. Is there value in that where we are right now, or should we really just focus on playing and getting people there and just handling it ourselves and like mixing from the stage?
My thought around it has more to do with what is going to make you feel better.
Hiring a guy.
Yeah, are you going to stress out because you're trying to make sure the levels are right?
Been there, done that, hate it. Can't fucking stand it.
So, I mean, that's going to be the determining factor.
Okay, counterpoint though. I'm gonna quote you, Adam. Will the audience notice?
Will the audience notice if the band's stressed out?
Okay, fair enough. That they might notice.
If I'm up there and I
Uno reverse card.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. It was good. It was really good. It was a really good reverse card. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. All right.
But I would say, like, if you're having to provide production, you're gonna have to figure the economics of that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got something coming up where like we're gonna have to bring a PA out, and it's it's kind of a low stakes gig, and I'm not gonna hire somebody because it doesn't make sense to. And And I don't think it's going to matter. To me, ultimately what matters is like, do I sound good? Like in between these two, monitors, if I sound good, then I'm going to have a good show. And, but the last thing I want is for people to walk up to me while I'm trying to put on my good show and go, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, for those of you listening to this and not watching, Adam just pantomime somebody trying to talk to you while you're wearing in-ears. Yeah.
So that's all.
Yeah, none of us have the ambient in-ears. So.
No.
I mean, I do, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not at the level, not at the dB I'm running.
Of somebody
my system
hollering at you, yeah.
Yeah.
I like being in my
Right
own.
Yeah.
I do too.
Me too.
I love it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
I for the rest, I really like you guys have had really thoughtful questions and like really feel like you kind of understand what's going on. Creston, I love your contribution to this whole conversation.
Yep.
But every single question you ask from now on is going to be, does the audience care? I think that's the big takeaway.
That's the big takeaway.
That's the headspace you need to be in.
Yep.
But that's for you to consider all these production questions. That's for you to consider. That's for you to consider for these production questions. That's for you to consider with the content creation strategy.
Yeah.
That's the way that you should consider the way that you're posting to social media in general. That's what you are. You guys are in the customer service industry, and your job is to be entertaining for your audience, whether it's online, in front of people, whatever. So go into it with an audience focused mentality.
And that's not, by the way, that's not to say that the audience doesn't care about some things. Sometimes the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah, but again, start there.
Start
with
Start
that
there.
posture.
Yeah, the audience cares about a lot less than you think. But some things, for sure, but a lot less than you think.
If Brad wasn't on camera, he'd be dancing right now. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm well aware of my own biases. And
I was about to say, is this like one of those things where like you finally talk your spouse into going to like marriage counseling and they realize
and
that
it's all
they
bad
made a
news
huge
for you,
mistake?
right? Yeah. Well, it's part of why, like, even with all that, like, Creston, you've done a really, really, really good job of setting this band up to come out strong, and it's really impressive. I'm excited to watch the launch and flight path of this thing, because you've done a lot of good thinking. I mean, how many bands go out of the way to make sure they get a coaching session from people who've been there? It's just really cool. It's really cool. I'm really, really impressed with what you're causing.
Yeah.
We're all old enough that we want to do this for fun, but after a year or so of slugging it out in bars and whatever, I mean, obviously our ultimate goal is, I think it was somebody on the, I don't remember if it was one of you guys or if it was somebody else maybe it was Mike Schulte. I don't remember. Somebody said, and I've said this to the guys, and I really believe it's true, is that every bar gig is an audition for a private party.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a sales funnel.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, man, this has been really, really eye-opening. And as much as I appreciate you guys saying, like, you guys are doing this stuff good, I really appreciate the criticism, right? It's like, and it's not bad. I don't mean that like it's bad criticism, right? I appreciate the straightforward, like, just like analysis of what we're doing. And I realize it's kind of difficult because we don't have anything really yet, aside for some pictures that my wife shot, and, whatever. Right. So
starting a TikTok tomorrow.
There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, Brad created a TikTok during this meeting. I just want to say that, and he did just text me, does the audience care? So,
There you go.
That's your mantra.
you know.
That's your mantra. That's your mantra. That's the only question to ask yourself.
That's how I'm gonna move forward.
Good. Good. Perfect.
Tag me
I got
with
plenty of
stuff. I'll see it.
tattoos. I'll add it somewhere.
Hashtag does the audience care?
Yeah.
Well, dudes, I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening to talk with us. We are available if you've got questions or anything. You can reach out to us directly through any of the other channels that are out there. You guys are going to figure it out on your own, and whatever hopefully we can provide some some guidance and stuff. But I mean, I think you guys have all the things you need to succeed already.
Yep.
And it's just it's all over but the doing.
100%.
Thanks.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you both.
Yeah.
This
Very
has been great.
Absolutely. Go get them, guys.
All right, guys.